today's video, we're going to be talking about the Black Ops Cold War beta. I'm going to be giving a little bit of feedback, initial thoughts, and things that I think they could change. And overall, I think I'm going to talk about a lot of the issues, because that's the whole point of trying out a beta, so we can give feedback, which will hopefully maybe change some things, or maybe make some tweaks here or there, or maybe give a different perspective that maybe them or even yourself playing the game hadn't thought about. So with feedback, some of it's going to be positive and some of it's going to be negative. So we'll walk through all of it. If you do enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. And if you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, just make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. So overall, I've been hearing a lot of different feedback online on Twitter and different things like that, and there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of good things with this game. I know some people are coming from Modern Warfare and that being their only Call of Duty they've ever played, which that's okay. For your first Call of Duty, that's cool. There's a lot of great features in Modern Warfare. But if you've never played a Treyarch Call of Duty, and you've never played Black Ops 1, 2, 3, or 4, you don't maybe not have enough experience with Call of Duty games to see that the game doesn't really look as bad as people want to make it out to be. I know I've got some comments, people saying, hey, it looks like an Xbox 360 game. I recently played games on Xbox 360 when it comes to Call of Duty. It does not look like an Xbox 360 game. It definitely looks like it is on the last leg of the current gen, and it's definitely going to look better with the next gen and obviously on PC once we get access to that next week during the second beta weekend. I think the colors are a little bit brighter, more vibrant, which is typically what it looks like on a Treyarch Call of Duty. Some people call that cartoony, but at the end of the day, it's just a stylistic preference. Along with that, the animations kind of gotten tightened up, and I expect them to get tightened up as the development goes through, because obviously the final version of the game has already been worked on, and then they're going to make some tweaks based off the intel from this beta weekend and the next, but they've already put those things into work and already started changing things. They just didn't make the cut for the current beta version that we have. So one of the biggest issues I currently have with the game is the connections are pretty terrible. I'm expecting those to hopefully improve as the end of this weekend goes on, and then following next weekend with the entire cross-play availability of Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, all being able to play on the same lobbies. Maximum number of players should lead to the best connections possible, and then figuring out the overall hit reg, which Treyarch doesn't usually known for having good hit reg, but also lag compensation. So it feels the same number of bullets that you shoot somebody with is how many you get shot with, because right now there's a lot of shoot first, die first, which is a terrible way to play the game because it's literally out of your hands. It's like the RNG simulator. Will the game allow me to win today? Because you could shoot somebody, land 3 bullets, and then all of a sudden you insta-die. Check the kill cam. It looks like they hit you way before you ever hit them, and they're shooting you with the same gun, and it's impossible to lose that gunfight if you landed the first 3 bullets. It just doesn't happen, and then you get insta-deleted. And that's kind of what's going on with connections, which is perfectly fine. I accept that for what it is until they get it fixed, which they inevitably will. But another part that comes as part of that is obviously there's a factor of skill-based matchmaking. Bunch of people talking about that again. We had to deal with that in Modern Warfare for both multiplayer as well as Warzone. I don't really care about that issue. Hopefully they add a ranked playlist so I can go sweat in a ranked playlist, but overall I don't really care about that. As long as my connections are good, at least I feel like I'm having a fair gunfight. That's what really matters, because at the end of the day, if you end up in a sweaty lobby, then you just have to play a certain way, which that part's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and that's part of matchmaking going forward. I don't see that changing, but connectivity and connections and low ping should be probably the priority when you're matchmaking in a casual experience. And one thing that's kind of led to this a little bit more debate is because when we had the alpha, the lobbies kind of stayed intact. You're able to vote for the maps, but it looks like they're going the route of Modern Warfare, where you have the quick playlist and then you just kind of select the mode you want. So whether it's team deathmatch, domination, hardpoint, you select those, and you just queue up, and then you're gonna get a new lobby every time. It's gonna throw you in a match in progress. Very often, at least in the beta so far, it's been very often that you're in a match in progress and you're joining a team that's getting stomped, and pretty much the enemy team is just raining in streaks because everyone left, and they end up in a 6v3, and you're joining in and they're just getting destroyed. They should just separate the modes the way they've done it before. So if I want to play only TDM, I don't gotta go to some quick playlist. I just go to the TDM playlist, and that's where everyone else goes. So it's not like some quick playlist and you just sort through random modes like they did in Modern Warfare. I'm not a fan of that because it just breaks the lobby, and if you find a good connection, You should be able to stay with those players, but nope, it's going to kick you into a new lobby. So you get this really pattern of inconsistency instead of knowing, okay, the connection's good, let's stay in this lobby. So that's enough about connection. Let's go ahead and talk about one of the other big issues that I have currently with the beta, and that is the progression system. Obviously, we've had to progress through levels in the past in prior betas, and normally the progression makes sense because of the level cap, and where they've placed the items makes perfect sense for individual class setups. The other part of it is the weapon level progression is very slow, tedious. I wanted to play through and only use one weapon. It took me about 7.5 to 8 hours, somewhere in there, using one single weapon to max out and level it up all the way to level 45 or whatever it is, and get every single attachment for the weapon so I can actually feel if the attachments make a difference. And I don't think that's practical when you have a beta, because you want everyone to experience the weapons as much as possible so you get as much hands-on testing so you can figure out, oh, dang, that one weapon's overpowered. Let's fix that. Oh, that weapon's too weak. Let's fix that. Balance it out. Whereas if you have to pick and choose and spend 8 hours leveling a single weapon to get to the last attachments to find out if they're any good, it doesn't give you enough good data, and you're gonna kind of just go off, hey, this weapon feels good, I'm only gonna stick with this one because that's all I have to work with. I don't have enough time to play. And the next thing is the overall order that you unlock stuff. Obviously, the first day we got level 16, then we're gonna get level 25 all the way at the end of this weekend. You have all the way up to go to level 25. And then next weekend, we're going to be able to go all the way up to 40. So everyone's going to be able to come along, and the max level next weekend will be level 40. The downside with that is really you're not going to be able to feel the game, or a lot of people are going to reach that max rank in time, unless they double the XP. But the one issue with that is this entire weekend, you want to go ahead and play domination, for example, regardless if you're playing in the big mode where you got to be on a flag. Let's talk about cartel, because it appears in both playlists, regular dom 6v6 and 12v12. I think they both play very well. Maybe the 6v6 is a little slow at times, but in general they both play very well. If you played that map on either one, if somebody is on the B flag, which is the ABC flag, the B flag right in the middle, or right in the middle of where that cart truck is and there's a bunch of bushes around it, you guys know what I'm talking about. Or you played it with the D flag where it's all the objectives in a 12v12. Literally, you can't capture it the way you would normally in domination. Normally, you put on flak jacket because from the spawn you could throw like you're a pro football player, quarterback. You're throwing all the way to the middle of the map from your spawn, and then you end up being able to just spam nades on the flag. The unfortunate part about that is no one's going to be encouraged to actually play the mode the way it's designed because nade spam is so prevalent. And the reason why nade spam is so prevalent is because we don't get to unlock another wild card until level 27, which is next weekend. So the entire weekend we have to deal with double nade spam and no flak jacket. That doesn't give you a true indication of how the game's going to play, because once it launches, of course some people are going to use danger close so they get 2 nades. But you're going to have the option to run flak jacket, and not as many people will, because some people are going to go for the perk heavy because they want to have tons of perk, or they're going to go for the gunfighter where they can have 8 attachments. I'm guessing that very few people are going to run with danger close. A lot of people are going to probably run with flak jacket. So you're going to cut down on the name spam, and you're going to have ways to defend yourself. And unfortunately, that means that domination and the version that we're playing now in the first weekend of the beta is going to be nothing like when the actual game comes out. So it kind of gives you this false taste, like, man, it's kind of like nade spammy. Like, there's too many nades. Like, a lot of people said that with World War II. Same issue. You're going to end up where it's like, dang, why are there so many nades? I just feel like I'm dying to nades and getting in gunfights. I play a first-person shooter getting gunfights. Why am I dying to nades? And it can give you that false sense. So I'm already aware of that. I know that that's because it's a beta. I understand that. But some of you guys switching over from Modern Warfare or maybe another Call of Duty, and you're just coming back to this one for the first time, you're not going to realize, damn, this game kind of plays terribly. All you do is die by nades. I think it's very unfortunate the way they've decided to unlock those particular perks in that order without giving us the opportunity to kind of mix it up and actually have some variety until the second weekend. So your experience on the first weekend is going to be completely different than the second, primarily because you'll have access to more variety, and so will everyone else. So you're going to see less of double nade spam, and you'll have the opportunity to at least have flak jacket to save you from when that random nade flies over and hits this flag when you're trying to capture it. The other thing is that one of the things they modified in the patch notes, which is Ninja, which is the dead silence perk in this game, they modified the footstep audio, and guess what? We can't give feedback until level 38. How many people are going to unlock level 38 right away? It's going to take a while. We'll see the next weekend, and people are going to run through it, and then we can actually start giving feedback on the perk. I'd love to say, hey, you know what? I think the footstep audio is still a little too loud, or they need to make adjustments because I had this whole weekend to level it up, progress next weekend, or they could have made it like a level 12 unlock or something like that. So you can actually hear it and be like, dang, it's too strong. It's not strong enough. How can you give feedback on a very, crucial perk that a lot of people have different opinions on how it's supposed to work? Some people think it should be ultimately dead silence, and other people think, oh, okay, cool, you should be able to hear it, but obviously you're going to be way quieter, and there's a balance there. How can we give feedback on a perk that we can't even use unless we use one of these random custom ones, and then people don't even know, oh, they're using a custom? No, it's very difficult to give an opinion when you're limited on the most important perks, attachments, weapons, all that type of stuff in the game. That kind of hinders that part of it. So I think the progression, they could have done a better job on that. It's too late now, but I wouldn't necessarily make your opinions on how the game plays based off the limited options, because the game's going to play completely different once people start getting flak jacket, the gunfighter wild card, or the perk greed, or whatever wild card is out there. That's going to completely overhaul the way people are actually playing the game, and you'll actually see probably some a little bit more objective play, because it's not such a risk to just go jump on the flag and get insta-nated by people in spawn. Next thing up is the audio. I think they made some changes to audio. The guns are a little bit more thumpier. The audio is still a little bit louder than the alpha, which in my opinion I actually prefer. It's not at the level of Modern Warfare. They took it way over the top. Like, your ears are ringing after you play Modern Warfare for quite a while, just because there's so much noise and it's just loud on the map, and I think they've toned it down quite a bit. Whereas in the alpha it was so muted compared to Modern Warfare. It was like, dang, I can hear, like, my ears aren't ringing. They've kind of brought it a little bit in the middle. They didn't take it up to Modern Warfare level, but they definitely brought it up. So I felt like the audio sounds fine. I think footsteps sound a little too loud currently, because I feel like I can almost directionally indicate where someone is when they're walking, not even sprinting, walking. So I think they can make some tweaks on that. But again, we won't know until how that plays in with the ninja perk. So that one is a wait and see for a little bit more opinions on that. Movement. I know a lot of people are torn on movement. Personally, I'm a fan of the movement. I like it. I feel like the slide is a little too fast. I think that the attachment that makes your slide a little bit faster and longer or whatever, that thing's a little bit too much in my opinion. I feel like if somebody comes around and they slide, they move faster than you can almost possibly track. By the time you realize if they knew you were there, it's too much. It's too much. BO4 had a good balance where the slide was strong, but it was very trackable. This thing is like, bloop, bloop, they're already moved over. And I don't know if that goes back to connection, which I don't really want to talk about, where you can skip across. But overall, the slide is way too cracked out. I don't think that needs to be in the game that strong. I'm a fan of the slide moving and being able to jump and move and have some dynamic play, especially since the drop shot really isn't available unless you have a particular attachment. You should have the flexibility to use those other things if you need them, but I really feel like the slide movement speed is just way too fast. And another thing we'll talk about is the maps. There's a lot of debating on maps in general. I had the opportunity to play the beta for 11 hours up to this point. I played about 3 or 4 hours in a party of 3 or 4, and I played solo for about 6 hours total. Solo, I want to get the experience of a solo player because the vast majority of the community plays solo. Overall, I felt like the maps were easy to understand, where you rotate. The spawns were fairly predictable, but I feel like even though they said they added some more spawn locations to get you in the action faster, I don't think that was actually the case. I know that there were several times when I'm playing Cartel, it literally spawns you in the back where you got to cross the bridge, and then you got to come up the side on one side of the map, and the other side, it's kind of a similar issue. It's way too deep in the spawn, especially if you have half the map controlled. It needs to spawn you much closer to the middle of the map. So that was the first thing. The spawns aren't great. I think on Cartel, it is a well-built map. The big downside is those bushes, they're just too tall. I'm just not a fan. Even if somebody's jumping in the bushes, you basically can't see them. And the only way you know that they're there half the time is because their little player icon pops up above their head. and that is not how gunfight should be taken. You can almost lay in the bush. If you see someone walk by, you shoot them, they'll never see you, which is a horrible design choice when it comes to creating the map, because the overall flow of the map, obviously the hangars are the strong side, the low side in the little quarry or whatever, the river side or whatever you want to call it, the low side where the water is, that's fine. I think that tower is a little bit too strong. Maybe you cut that off. I'm not really a fan of that. I feel like they did brighten up Miami in a good way. It was very visible, easy to see stuff. I still am not really a fan of that whole beach section. I understand that part of that flank has to be there because there is a flank on the opposite end of the map, but I think it should be condensed a little bit because there's way too much stuff on the outskirts. And I think you have the same issue with satellite for that particular map in the 6v6. There's way too much dune space. If you actually go to the edge of the map and you follow it, there's way too much dune space. There's too much clutter there. Maybe they have some other objective game modes that they're going to mess around with where it makes sense to use that portion. But if you're playing domination, kill confirm, team deathmatch, that is way too much wild space away from basically where they want to draw the attention, which is where the B flag sits, right in the middle of the map. And I think that ends up being a bit of an issue because you can end up with too much of the map on there. The spawns are just kind of get all flippy and wonky, and there's not enough spawns that push you up as well, especially if you have half the map. There's not enough of those spawns that are pushing you towards the third of the map. They're still putting you kind of deep in the spawn where you got to run the 20 seconds to get into a gunfight. I'm a fan of Moscow. I know some people don't like it necessarily, but it's very symmetrical. There are some variations in there thrown in that I feel like it's still balanced. Depending on the mode, it could flow pretty well. It didn't necessarily feel campy in any way. I really like how Moscow lines up. Now, when it comes to the combined arms mode, obviously we already talked about Cartel. I think it plays great as a 12v12 map. I think it's probably better suited if they had like a 10v10. I think 6v6 is a little too slow at times. And then the 12v12 can be very hectic. And I think a 10v10 would be more practical. But obviously the map is already built and it's going to play better in 12v12. And maybe some of the slower modes, 6v6, if you don't like that high, fast-paced, lots of players. So I guess it fits both. As far as Armada, I like the map. I feel like, again, the issue is with the spawns and the vehicles and all the turrets. I'm never a fan of weaponized vehicles in Call of Duty. I just don't like it. I did not like it the entire year of Modern Warfare. I don't think there should have been tanks. I'm all for vehicles that transport people from one location to another faster, whether it's snowmobiles, jet skis, regular boats, ATVs, whatever. I'm all for vehicles that are going to transport players from A to B as fast as possible, and that's how vehicles should be used. When you put a turret that is so powerful and very difficult to destroy, if you're in a particular situation, you could spawn trap with the boats. I am not a fan. I think they need to be nerfed heavily, where it's much harder to hit, and they should be used for travel. Crossroad. That needs to be like a 24v24 map. I played it 12v12. Man, is that thing slow. I wouldn't really recommend playing that map ever. Even on the VIP Escort, it's a 6v6, I believe. And that is terribly slow. Obviously, that playstyle is a little bit more built for the slower S&D style, but where it's no respawn. But 12v12 and there's multiple vehicles, it's just like, it's way too much, way too big. And they could easily put 24v24 on there. I'd love to see how it played, but currently in its current state, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good map for 12v12. It just doesn't make sense. And that pretty much ends up being my feedback. Obviously, the reason why I went through all these elements, even though I've touched on some of them before, this is more of my overall impressions video, so that if one of the devs happens to see it, they can listen to my feedback. Obviously, they'll take some of it. If you have opinions that are similar to mine, cool, go ahead and comment them. If you have ones that are different, go ahead and comment them. The key of the video is to get as much feedback as possible, so that by the time we get to the end result, it is much closer to what the community as a whole wants. Because obviously, I don't speak for the entire community. And there's plenty of people have different opinions, similar opinions. There's a whole mix out there. So if you want to be heard, I would definitely comment what you're thinking. Maybe at this point, now that my channel is just a little bit larger, maybe it'll get seen by some of the devs or somebody at the studio where they can actually say, hey, you know what? It looks like, you know, there's a good idea that we didn't even think of, or you know what? You know, let's go ahead and kind of figure something out. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learn something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, just make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.